Ambassador Etienne, thank you for having us over here. Today we'll be discussing the road to net zero with Khaleej Times. Basically, we're paving the way towards COP28.
Thank you so much for having me. Indeed, the UAE is a leader in the fight against climate change, not only regionally but globally, investing heavily in the UAE as well as abroad via, in particular, Masdar into renewable energy. We see a lot of commitment by His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, who brings extensive experience with him from over 12 COPs, if I'm not mistaken, and as a former CEO of Masdar. So we are in a country which is well positioned to take us now the steps further which are needed during the global stock take. This is the first COP after the Paris Agreement where we will take stock of the goals set at the Paris COP. And this is so important to now advance further. And I can assure you of Austria's and Europe's full support for the very important goals set by the United Arab Emirates for COP28.
Any challenges, Your Excellency, perhaps in terms of sustainable financing? I'm not very well informed. However, sometimes you'll find a lot of taxpayers who will always, speak about climate change in quite a controversial way in terms of financing it, in terms of renewable, in terms of what countries normally would do within that scale. So is this something that perhaps came across your radar in Austria? Is this one of the challenges? Can you please speak to us about it a little bit?
Yeah, of course, the energy transition is, as also His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber has pointed out, a project which takes time, which needs to be handled in a responsible manner, but also in an ambitious manner. So I think there both our visions, Europe's vision and the UAE's vision, merge. We need an ambitious and pragmatic pathway for the just energy transition. We need that. It's of course always an issue with respect to all the consequences of the energy transition, the social consequences, the consequences for the economy as such. But we should also look at the bright side and all the investment opportunities coming up thanks to investments into renewables, as we can see here domestically in the UAE and globally thanks to investments by the UAE, by European partners, US partners, India, many Asian countries investing heavily in climate change, mitigation in renewable energy in all areas. What I have come across in particular during the negotiations is the Green Climate Fund, which of course there we have the cycles for replenishment. There Austria is fully committed. We have increased our contribution in the second replenishment cycle by 23%. So there is a clear commitment also for the Green Climate Fund from Austria to do our part for the developing world, because they are very much affected by climate change. At the same time, I have to admit, we are all now very much affected by climate change. The whole discussion has quite changed in comparison to 10 to 15 years ago, where we would really talk more about the developing world or the global south being more affected by climate change than the so-called developed world. We are now seeing floodings this summer in Austria, in Slovenia. We are seeing droughts. We are seeing floodings now in the north of England and Scotland. We are all very much affected by climate change. And so we are all in the same boat. And this is why the global stocktake is so important. This is why the ambitious goals set by the presidency of the UAE for COP28 are so important to move us the step further which we need to take in order to not lose sight of the 1.5 degree goal, which we must not, and we are way off track.
We are way off track, and hopefully, this COP28 will put us back on track. Your Excellency, from your experience, in handling the climate change file, ESGs in general, how much do they play a role in terms of assuring that companies, governments are implementing ESGs globally, and does that fall under the whole mitigation of climate change?
You're right to point out that we need a holistic approach, and as also the presidency of the UAE, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, has always pointed out, we need the private sector on board. We need them. And we need to go hand in hand. When we talk about tackling climate change, it cannot be just the public sector just some laws being implemented and some carbon trading schemes, which just affect in fact, certain companies and others not. We need this holistic approach to move further. We need commitments from private companies, as we just saw at ADIPEC, as we will certainly see in the weeks leading to COP28. It will be very important and crucial to really get the full picture and to get everyone committed and on board to fight climate change, which is the one big global challenge for humanity.
Absolutely. And therefore, it goes back just to my question, there has been a lot of pledges in terms of putting a specific amount for climate change to fight or overcome climate change. However, most of these pledges have never been met to the degree that, whether it's countries, whether it's organizations pledge. So is there a way to kind of not enforce, however, assure that there is this following through the pledges, there is this implementation of, the money going directly to the people in need for climate mitigation, whether even in terms of the know-how, in terms of educating people, in terms of educating countries, organizations, and whatnot. And we previously had an interview with the Director General of IRENA, and I think, they're one of the organizations who try as much as possible to find this link where, you can assure that the private sector or maybe the banking sector finances specific projects in countries that are of need of renewable energies. So is this something perhaps you can speak to us about?
As mentioned before, the approach set by the UAE for COP28 is very valid, pragmatic, and important to get everyone on board, the private sector as well as the public sector. It's true, when His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber made his listening tour, he was also reporting back to us ambassadors and to other capitals in the world that in the Global South there is one big complaint, that the financing pledges since Paris have consistently not been met. And there has since been a lot of effort this year to change that. And I think we could be on track this year to meet the $100 billion financing pledge, which would be a very important signal that everyone takes it very seriously and fulfills pledges and commitments, right? That's super important for the Global South to see there is a commitment, there is a willingness to help. Of course, by the public sector as well as by the private sector. We also need private sector investments quite heavily to fulfill the energy transition as a whole. And so you can be assured that also for Europe and for Austria, this is a very high priority to ensure that the Green Climate Fund, that the climate financing gets the attention it needs. At the same time, it's also important, as you know, the global goal on mitigation, adaptation, that we also move forward on those issues. We see a lot of commitment as well by the presidency to move forward also on those issues. And then, of course, to have a very ambitious and inclusive COP, we see very encouraging steps taken to ensure that, and I can assure you of our full support to achieve that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Your Excellency, if you don't also mind me asking, right now there is a lot of conflicts happening in our region, in your region as well. Do you think that these conflicts perhaps would, to a certain degree, affect the whole, let's say, goal or objective of COP28?
It is a very valid and important question.
Yes.
And I think it's very important to underline that we must never lose sight of what is at stake globally if we fail to meet the 1.5 degrees target, if we continue to be way off track with the energy transition, with fulfilling pledges, then we will face a situation where current upheavals and conflicts might be just, as the French say, an avant-goût, and it might be much, much worse in 10 to 20 years to come if we have all the detrimental effects on food security, on climate zones changing and switching, on certain countries not being able anymore to nourish themselves, and people having to move to other countries because of water scarcity or food scarcity, then we might have a very different scenario outplaying, where we have a self-fulfilling cycle of conflict and climate change, both negatively affecting each other. So it is very important also the security nexus, and this will be addressed at COP28 as well. I see a lot of focus on thematic issues, be it health, be it trade, be it security, partly for the first time addressed in a COP, and this is super important.
Absolutely.
But so it is very important that we do not lose sight of our objectives, of our goals, despite the conflicts, and that we work on peaceful and just solutions for the conflicts, protecting civilians, ensuring sovereignty and territorial integrity. That's, of course, the principles of the UN Charter to solve the conflicts. That we're very much aligned with the UAE on all those issues. A very important member of the UN Security Council these days, acting very responsibly. So that we're very much aligned, but we must not lose sight of what is at stake potentially if we do not manage to sufficiently address the challenges humanity faces by climate change.
Which underlines the importance of having this global consensus.
Exactly.
In terms of COP, different issues, just for the future of humanity in general.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Your Excellency, last but not least, can you please just touch base on the agreement, the Strategic Energy Security Industrial Cooperation Agreement that has been recently signed with the UAE? Perhaps speak to us a little bit about it in terms of, meeting the goal with the Austrian leadership and the Emirati leadership in assuring that, people over here in both countries meet their needs bilaterally and energy-wise, security-wise.
It was a wonderful visit that took place a year ago, more or less exactly a year ago, by the Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer at the invitation of His Highness President Sheikh Mohammed, who is personally very much committed, as is His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, to the bilateral relationship between the UAE and Austria. This is very much appreciated. We are strong partners, very important partners, and in times of need, you can see who is your real friend.
Absolutely.
When Austria was facing difficulties with securing its energy supplies last year due to the war in Ukraine, the UAE jumped in and said, okay, we can help you, for example, by supplying you with LNG. And this is the result is our partnership agreement, which was signed at the visit last October, where we will identify and are already identifying energy projects where we can advance together, be it the supply of LNG for Austria, be it other areas like hydrogen, renewables, other sectors where we can work together, learn from each other's experiences, ensure each other's energy security, energy supplies, understand each other's needs. We have a soon 30-year partnership between our national oil corporation OMV and Mubadala, soon ADNOC. We have a strong partnership also with Borealis in the field of plastics. And we have a good potential for a partnership to develop with the Austrian electricity producer, which is Verbund, where they signed an MOU with Masdar at Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week this year on the potential supply of green hydrogen to Austria and southern Germany in the coming years. So that's also potentially very important and paves the way for the future that we work together on, be it LNG, be it renewables, as well as including hydrogen.
In your perspective, Your Excellency, do you think we'll meet the goal of net zero by 2050?
I have no doubt, given your success story over the last more than 50 years, that you will be able to meet it and maybe even over-accomplish. And this would be in the spirit of the United Arab Emirates to always give its best, be among the peers worldwide and among the best. So I have no doubt, and your NDCs are very ambitious. Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mehri is very much committed, as is the whole UAE government, to meeting those targets, to reducing emissions, to implementing sustainability. There also Austria is a country that can offer a lot with respect to experience, to decarbonizing, to waste management. 70% of our electricity generation comes from renewable sources. So also there, although geography is a bit different and we can use more hydropower, we can learn a lot from each other, we can work together, we can join forces. Our goal is to reach climate neutrality by 2040. So it's a very ambitious goal. So maybe we can reinforce each other in meeting each other's goals.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your time. You have been a wonderful guest. You explained a lot. And thank you for being on the Road to Net Zero with Khaleej Times.
Thank you so much, Abdallah. It was my honor to be invited today.
Likewise. Thank you.